So you're thinking about moving somewhere where there's beautiful scenery, a lot of outdoor activity, and the cost of living won't keep you sweating through retirement.
The quality of life here is exceptional.
I was just kind of interested to go somewhere where I could be more outdoorsy.
We're trying to move up here for a better life.
We make all of these different lists, so people are moving here.
Well, Idaho just might be on your list. But before you pack those bags, you need to hear this.
I feel like the people who are moving here don't have a respect. It almost brings tears to my eyes. The people who were born and raised here.
Today, I'm covering some of the untold truths about living in Idaho. Do you think you can handle this? All right, let's start by talking about what Idaho is the most famous for. Potatoes. No, I'm kidding. The great outdoors. If you're someone who loves spending your time hiking or fishing or just spending your time getting lost in the woods, Idaho is going to be paradise for you. The state has over 4.5 million acres of wilderness, and there's plenty of room to spread out and get lost in nature. Idaho is known for its hunting. In fact, the hunting in Idaho is so good. I know a lot of people who live in surrounding states such as Oregon and Washington that file for hunting permits in Idaho state. If you're into fishing, Idaho also has over 3,000 miles of river and some of the best fly fishing in the nation. If you are into nature, wildlife, Idaho has you covered. Now, if you're looking for a bustling nightlife or super diverse culture, Idaho does not hit that mark at all. Idaho is more of a slice of pizza, brewery type of place, not so much Broadway shows and rooftop bars. Boise does have a little nightlife action, and the city is kind of growing and maturing a little bit, but still, it is going to be a far cry from some of the bigger metropolitan areas in the country. The rural towns in Idaho, or pretty much everywhere outside of Boise, there's really no nightlife at all, or the nightlife is going to be bonfires and beers. It's not going to be going out to clubs or anything like that, or seeing a performing arts show. The lack of things to do in Idaho is a huge complaint that you hear from the people that move there and some of their residents. If you think about it, Idaho, they don't have any national professional sports teams, and rarely do national acts go and visit Idaho State. I mean, think about it. When's the last time that you've seen somebody walk by with a concert t-shirt on and it says Idaho on the back? So long story short, if your ideal day is going for a hike and then hitting the hay at 9 p.m., Idaho's got you covered. Now, Idaho is not all sunshines and rainbow, and I'm talking about the weather. It is very moody. Especially in the winter months, there is a lot of snow, especially when you get up into the panhandle and into the mountain ranges. It can be pretty intense, and we're talking feet of snow and a lot of icy roadways. A lot of roadways even closed down. They're just not even passable during the winter months. The state can hover in those below freezing temperatures for several weeks on end, and we just talked about the Idaho Panhandle. If you are down into the Boise area, that is a massive valley, and there's inversions that happen, which mean cloud cover come in and sink on top. It can be really gray and gloomy and cold, and the weather in winter is for that special personality, let me tell you what. Now, this is great news for anybody who loves snowshoeing, snowmobiling, skiing. Pretty much anywhere you live in Idaho, you are going to be a very close proximity to those ski areas and that winter outdoor recreation. Now, in the summertime, Idaho State it records about 300 days of sunshine, which is great. Much better than some of the coastal Pacific Northwest states like Oregon and Washington, where they get a lot of gloominess. But the heat in the summertime, I have family who live in Idaho, and they say that the summers are progressively getting warmer, and it's getting to the point where they can't even be outside. We're talking triple digits for several weeks in a row. And with those hot temperatures, it also brings smoke season, so fires that start happening. And I'm hearing more and more complaints about how people feel trapped inside during the summer months because of the heat and the conditions outside. And they move to Idaho to be outside, out in the outdoors, and they just can't do it because of the weather. So just know that the winter and the summer months in Idaho are quite extreme. Now it does have 4 very distinct seasons, and the falls and springs are absolutely stunning in Idaho State. Okay, so we need to talk about the money in Idaho. And I think there's been a lot of people that have moved to the Idaho area because of the cost of living and the affordability. And this is still true depending on where you're coming from, but Idaho is not nearly as affordable as what it was, say, a decade ago or even 5 years ago. The average home price in Idaho right now is $477,000, and that is up 15% from last year. And Idaho is now $65,000 higher than the national average, which was not the case, just a handful of years ago. So the home prices in Idaho are not the affordable home prices that you have heard about in the past. Idaho reports to have an average cost of living that is 5.5% above the national average. Most of this is coming from the housing cost because things like utilities and groceries and transportation, all those are below the national average. So if you can afford the house, your day-to-day living is going to feel a little bit more affordable. The economy in Idaho is really strong right now, and the American Legislation Exchange Council ranks the economy in Idaho as number 2, so that's fantastic. Education is ranked 18th, opportunity, they're ranked 14th, and healthcare, they're ranked 18th. So really, on a lot of these good categories, they're ranked fairly high in the country. What you need to know about the economy in Idaho, though, is if you are going to be working in Idaho, their minimum wage really sucks. In fact, it is the bottom of the barrel of what the national minimum wage will even allow, and that is $7.25 per hour. And that has not had an increase in 15 years. So wages are fairly depressed. And of course, that trickles through all the job sectors in Idaho. I know people get paid a lot less in Idaho for doing the same job as they would somewhere else. If you're doing like an entry-level job, like if you're waiting tables, if you're making any sort of tips, know that that minimum wage is even lower, and you are looking at $3.35 per hour. Of course, there's calculations and formulas of how much you have to make in tips, but still, that is a very small paycheck. Okay, although the wages are pretty low in Idaho, they do have some tax benefits to living there. And one of those benefits is they do not tax Social Security benefits, which is a big win for anybody's wallet who is on taking Social Security. However, they will tax any withdrawals that you make from your 401ks at a rate of 5.8%. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about moving to Idaho to retire. The property taxes in Idaho are relatively low, especially compared to states like California and Oregon. The effective rate in Idaho is only 0.47%. The national average is right around 1%. So that's pretty low. Just keep in mind with these effective rates that depending on what city or town or neighborhood you live in, there's going to be added property taxes on top of that, depending on levies, fire departments, schools, all of that. So also, if you are over the age of 65 and thinking about moving to Idaho, you might qualify for Idaho's circuit breaker program, which helps reduce property taxes up to $1,500 depending on your income. So if you're moving there over the age of 65, go talk to the county. You might have a tax break in there. Okay, before we talk about the real juicy stuff of why you may or may not want to move to Idaho, I want to talk a little bit about the healthcare. And when it comes across the board, I mean, when I research healthcare in the Boise area, I am seeing different statistics all over the place. I'm seeing them ranked 12th and I'm seeing them ranked 26th. And I really think this depends on where you are living. My grandmother is in Boise, and I feel like she gets really good health care and she has a great doctor. I think when you're in the larger metropolitan areas, your choices are a lot more vast, but there's a lot of rural land in Idaho, and this is where healthcare gets very spotty. If you have any sort of long-term condition or an emergency, you can be traveling a very long ways to get to a hospital. So if you are thinking that healthcare is going to be a high priority for you when moving to Idaho, really consider the healthcare system that is going to be closest to you. Okay, now let's talk about the culture of Idaho. And Idahoans, this state is very red and it is very conservative. And the more rural that you get, the stronger these opinions and culture get. And this is not for everyone. Some people are going to feel right at home in this culture. What you should also know is Idaho is an open carry state, which means if you are over the age of 18 and a U.S. citizen, you may carry a gun without a license as long as it is visible. Now, this might have to do something with the low crime rate in Idaho. Idaho's crime rate is 37% lower than the national average. There's guns everywhere. It's part of the culture. It's part of Idaho. So if you feel like seeing a gun at a child's soccer game or out while you're eating dinner with your family, Idaho is going to make you really uncomfortable. So is Idaho the right move for you? If you love the outdoors, want to stretch your retirement dollar a little bit further, you want a laid back lifestyle, Idaho just might be the perfect match. Sure, the winters can be really tough and the summers are really hot and healthcare might be a little bit challenging, but there are some tax benefits and some affordability to living in Idaho. Thank you for joining me. I'm Amanda Dallman, your no BS real estate resource. Oh, and if you need a reference or a referral, if you're moving to Idaho and you need an agent referral, please make sure to click the link in the description below. I will get a hold of you, we'll have a phone conversation, and I will get you connected to the right person. Till next week.